Morning, everybody.
Morning.
I wield the gavel with authority today. Here's hoping I don't need it again until we're done.
Don't break that.
I know. All right. Welcome everybody to Personnel Ways and Means Committee meeting this morning. We call this meeting to order. First order of business was I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 9th, 2026.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, same sign. Sorry, I'm watching Mr. Galuli do a head count and making sure we actually have a quorum.
Got a
I
quorum.
was a little distracted, but thank you for taking care of us this morning. Next item is public comment on any agenda item. Anybody from the public want to say anything? I don't see anybody coming forward, so we'll move on. We have no rules to take a look at, but we do have a board appointment. It's recommended that we recommend to the board tomorrow Lieutenant Chris Hudson from Central Dispatch to the Homeland Security and Local Emergency Planning Committee. That's a 13-member committee with a 2-year term. Do I have a motion and support? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Welcome back, Administrator Murphy.
Thank you.
Everybody's on vacation, but the county government continues to run with tremendous efficiency. Next, we have the employment changes.
So in your packet, you can see the employment changes processed as of June 30th. Under the new hires, I do want to point out 2 individuals. One is for my office. We introduced Miss Lisa Hewitt-Cruz last month. She is in our meeting today at the back of the room. And also we have a new department head, Christine Beecher at the Public Defender's Office. The next section are those that have terminated with the county, and the final section under other are individuals that have moved from one position to another within the county. And I do want to also point out under Veterans Affairs, Timothy Rupel has moved from a Veteran Service Director to the actual Director of Veterans Affairs. And I will answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Thank you. Moving on to employee anniversaries.
These are the employee work anniversaries for July of 2026. We have our most senior employee for the month of July is David Borton. He's with the Sheriff's Department Animal Control, all the way down to those that have served just for 1 year with us. And if you have any questions, I will try to answer those.
Thank you for that. Moving on, is there any other personnel business? Seeing none, we will now ask Administrator Murphy to brief us on the finance reports.
Your finance reports we're going to start with the general fund income statement, which is through June 29th of this year, which is about at 49% for your benchmark. As we go into general fund on the revenue side, which is normal, you can see that we are currently only at about 16% of our overall revenue. Revenue being projected or budgeted for just over 43 million, and we are hitting just over 7,128,000 right now. However, that is an increase over last year at this point where we were at $7,047. And as you're aware, the majority of our revenue comes in through property taxes, which will be picked up later in this year. So you'll start seeing those revenues jump up more August, September, and October. Under the expense side for general fund, as we look at a 49% benchmark, I just wanted to point out a couple that are a little bit higher, and in the event you had questions. Under 223 external audit, you can see that that's at 69%. That is because the audit is almost completed and most of our invoices are paid. And under service contracts, you can see that is also at 69%. And it's because a lot of our service contracts are what we call front loaded in the year. So we pay them up front. Moving on, 261 MSU extension, it's about 62%. This is because they are on a state year in which we operate on a calendar year. So they're a little bit ahead in their projections. Moving on, we can see that the drain, the public benefit is a little bit high as far as those expenditures right now. And that's just due to some of the projects that came in compared to what the budgeted amount was. And then, of course, the tax tribunal 899 is showing 101%, but that's really only $243 over the budget, which just makes it sound like a very large percentage. Tax tribunals are difficult to predict when you're going to get them, and so we budgeted about $25,000, and the cost for those tax tribunals has gone over budget, like I said, by $243. Overall, your expenditures for the general fund year to date are at $19,148,000. Last year, we were at $18,537,000 at this point in time. However, like I said, we are looking at a budget of $43,253,000, and I expect that we will be fine as we move on into the year. Moving on into the fund equity changes report. These are all of the various funds that the Board of Commissioners are responsible for. So under the fund category, governmental funds, I'm not going to go into the general fund. We just talked about that, but the governmental funds include your special revenue funds, your debt service funds, your capital projects, and assessment districts. The total of all of those governmental funds year to date show revenues of $26,889,000 against expenditures of $40,660,000. Again, a lot of our costs are front loaded, and the revenues will start trickling in as we get further into the year. We move into our fund category, proprietary funds. Now, when you see that, you can think of these as business funds. So we have our enterprise funds and our internal service funds. For our total on our fund category, proprietary, we are seeing year-to-date revenues of $13,300,000 against expenditures of $12,600,000. Grand total for all funds the commissioners are responsible for this year so far have revenues of $40,204,000 compared to year-to-date expenditures of $53,267,000, giving us an estimated fund balance of all funds of almost $96 million. So if you have any questions, I will try to answer those.
And as my mailbox has been reminding me, tax season is upon us and those property taxes will be coming forward. Thinking of MSU Extension, I never have to guess when the fair time is upon us because my mailbox is also filling up with multiple opportunities to buy $250 chickens. So looking forward for a great fair season. How am I doing for babbling this morning? I think I'm doing great. Any other comments before we move on? All right, Administrator Murphy, I would ask you then to give us a quick brief on this next action item.
We do have Director McFarland in the audience, so I don't know if you want to come forward. This is a request coming from Mr. McFarland for the front of the court. This is a simple amendment to his current agreement with MGT, which has been reviewed and approved by Corporation Counsel. But Director McFarland, I don't know if you want to go into any more detail on it.
Is the microphone on? Make sure the green light's on, please. Press the button if the green light's not on.
Now it's on.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for helping me with the technology, which is also the reason why I'm here today, technology updates. MGT currently is using paper time sheets to keep track of hours worked for reimbursement from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The problem is many of these paper sources are becoming outdated, and as they become outdated, the cost for proceeding with timesheets will go up. So MGT is trying to get above the curve by switching over to electronic timesheets. As it is indicated, this year, 2026, the cost will be $781.66 just to make that change. But going forward, the only difference in our pre-existing contract will only be $505 per year. I would mention as well that by using this electronic timesheets, we will be saving postage. Likewise, it'll assist with storage if there ever needs to be a looking back at the electronic timesheets. And finally, the state of Michigan approves of this transition and would like counties to be going in this format. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Van Dorn.
Couple acronym questions. MGT.
You call me off base there, where I just call them MGT all the time. I know what their function is. Their function is to keep track of our timesheets for reimbursement, but off the top of my head, I don't have the name of what MGT stands for.
FOC is friend of the court, I take it.
Indeed.
Any other takers on the MGT question? Administrator Murphy?
But I do want to point out, Director McFarland brought up an important thing. On your action request form, you can see the amount requested is $1,280. That is the total cost of the project. We are able to get a reimbursement of 66% from the state. And so that's where he had indicated the net cost for this year is $781.66. So I wanted to make that clarification in the event you saw those different numbers and had some confusion.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment that, I'm surprised that you guys are still on paper and that this totally makes sense and needs to happen, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Van Dorn.
Well, I take it MGT is MGT Impact Solutions LLC.
Yes, I guess it is.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything further? Do I have a motion for this?
Support,
Moved and second. Any further comment? All in favor signify by saying yes.
yeah.
Yes. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
All right, as Counselor Galuli makes his way to the podium, I'm going to give an overview of these next two action items. And I guess I'm going to do this because as Township Zoning Administrator, we've already been deeply involved in these discussions. As you are all aware, Public Act 233 has sharply inhibited local units of government's ability to regulate the siting of renewable energy projects, wind, solar, and battery storage systems. Of course, 79 townships and counties filed an appeal to the MPSC order implementing that statute. While we lost on a couple of the significant points, one of the points we prevailed on was this question of what does the statute mean when it says there's an affected local unit of government? Because in the statute, affected local units of government are entitled to money to intervene in the MPSC proceedings. And the affected local unit of government is entitled to $2,000 per megawatt nameplate capacity of any renewable energy installation that comes into their jurisdiction. The MPSC's position was, until the appellate ruling, an affected local unit had to exercise zoning jurisdiction over the project in question. So in our case, Lenawee County does not. It also would have affected a multi-township project like the wind project proposed across Riga and Fairfield and Ogden townships, because at the time Ogden was unzoned, and the MPSC ruling said if any of the townships in a multi-township project do not have local zoning authority, then none of the townships would get any of that money. Well, the courts reversed that. So now we've received two communications and two checks from two solar developers. One is Glacier Meadows, which is building a 200 megawatt project, or proposing one, I should say, in Blissfield and Deerfield Townships, where I am the zoning administrator. And the other is the Rugit Farm Solar Project in Palmyra Township. The county has received two checks for $75,000, which can only be used to intervene before the MPSC. If we don't intervene, these funds have to be returned. So of course,
At 2 at 75 or
two at 75,000
each.
So we then, if you're wondering why there was a last minute change in the agenda this morning, we didn't receive one of these checks until I think last Thursday. And so it only makes sense, because time is of the essence, that we combine these procedures. So the question is, if we're going to intervene, what format does that look like, and who would we have represent us? Because keep in mind, if we don't intervene, we send the checks back. So I've asked Counselor Galuli to bring us up to speed on his recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman Martis. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Administrator Murphy, good morning. I had an opportunity to discuss briefly this matter with Chairman Van Doren and Commissioner Martis a couple weeks ago. And since that time, I've done a little bit of research and recommend that the county does in fact intervene in the matter currently pending before the Michigan Public Service Commission. I think you don't really have much of a choice to do it, but it's my recommendation that you do so. It's also my recommendation that you hire a different law firm to intervene before the Michigan Public Service Commission. I don't typically practice before the MPSC. While I represent some townships in litigation, this is a consolidated matter that's going to require a lot of duplicative effort, so to speak, on behalf of the law firm. And I recommend that you retain the Foster Swift law firm at a price agreeable to you and to be negotiated by you. I spoke with Attorney Holmeyer there, who I have another matter with, and they have several matters currently pending before the Michigan Public Service Commission. I think that retaining them will ensure that the county gets good legal representation in this matter, but it will also result in a cost savings to the county. They won't have to reinvent the wheel on every filing that goes forward with the MPSC. I think it's a good idea overall, and that would be my recommendation, to intervene and to retain the Foster Swift law firm, specifically Mr. Holmeyer.
Thank you for that. I would add to that in this particular case, it's useful because Foster Swift currently represents Palmyra, Blissfield, and Deerfield Townships. So they're already involved in the process. So again, it's just a question of efficiency and core competency in an area that they're already practicing in. So are there any other questions for Mr. Galuli?
Mr. Chairman, I would so move that we authorize not to exceed $75,000 to engage Foster, Swift, Collins, and Smith intervene on the county's behalf on these two areas, Rouget Farm Solar and Glacier Metals Solar Projects.
Is there a second?
Support.
Any discussion? Any questions? Commissioner Van Doren?
I really appreciate our corporate counsel's due diligence on this. He's been great to work with, and the fact that, Foster Swift is really involved in this. They're the premier people to take over, and I appreciate Mr. Galuli intervening and giving us that recommendation.
I'd add another comment. Were it not for Foster Swift's work on the appeal, we wouldn't be receiving these checks. And so there's already a tremendous financial benefit. I mean, I'll be clear, a lot of these projects are slated for my district. And the people in my district have expressed overwhelming opposition to these projects. And honestly, if they supported them, I wouldn't be sitting here. Because my position's been made very clear. That being said, once the projects are coming, it behooves us to extract everything we can from them for maximum benefit for the county. And I think we will see good relationships with the local units of government on this issue, and they will definitely appreciate our support. So, okay, any other comments before we take the vote? Commissioner Ongst.
For a point of clarification, we received one check or two checks?
Two.
Okay, so we have 75,000 times two.
Yes.
So this money can only be used for this.
Intervening. That's right. That's correct. Anything that's not spent, I think, has to be returned to the applicant. Anything else? And in general, it's just bad practice to send checks back if you don't have to. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. In this same vein, then, we will move on. Part of this, as I said, issue is that we are now entitled to receive $2,000 per megawatt for the host community agreements. Part of that process is to negotiate the language of that agreement. In this case, Foster Swift has already done that with both of these developers, and they have the language ready to go. But we still, of course, want to have a chance to review the final format. If both of these projects get built, we would receive $400,000 from the Deerfield and Blissfield project, Glacier Meadows, and $350,000 from Rouget Farms. That's before any of the property tax. Now, I will add a caution on the property tax. We mentioned the tax tribunal in our financial reports. History has shown that we can expect to be busy at the tax tribunal as these developers routinely, as a matter of course, appeal the valuations on these matters. Wind projects, they will appeal each turbine valuation on a turbine by turbine basis. So you can expect to expend some resources there. So To that end, this request is to recommend that the county administrator be authorized to enter into negotiations to draft a host community agreement for both the Rouget Farms and Glacier Meadows projects, and to authorize the board chairman to sign the same following review and approval of Corporation Counsel. And to be clear, we mean Attorney Galuli, not Foster Swift. Is there a second?
Support. Okay.
Then moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
All opposed, same sign. Matter advances. Thank you. Next, we have in front of us for the second reading, the accessibility software module that we need to keep our websites and so forth up to date with the latest statutory mandates. So you did have a chance to see this last month. The amount requested is $12,739.83, and the request is to recommend entering into an annual contract with Civic Plus for ADA website accessibility services. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Been moved and supported. Any questions, any comments? Commissioner Van Doren?
Second reading.
It is.
Thank you.
So we'll be able to finalize this tomorrow if that's the board's pleasure. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed, same sign. Matter advances. Staying in the same vein, this is now our first reading for this next request, and now I would invite our Communications and Marketing Coordinator, Miss Jennifer Ambrose, to come and give us a presentation. I had a chance to see a form of this last week, and I welcome you, Jen. It's some good stuff.
All right, so today we are going to be talking about building a more data-informed Lenawee County. And we're going to do that by strengthening resident engagement, enhancing our community insights, and really getting into some data-driven decision-making. First, we're going to talk about what we're doing really well. So Lenawee County has invested significantly in our communication and our public outreach. Those current efforts include everything we're doing on our website, and that includes all the digital communications that are going out from our website, our email notifications, our text notifications, also including our social media outreach. So I believe we are up to 23 different social media channels that we have. Also, all the newsletters and publications that we have going out, we are up to, I believe, 8 of those a month. Our public meetings that we have, including all of our live stream capabilities that we do as part of that. The Lenawee County Connect meetings that Administrator Murphy is having out in each of your districts with you, reaching out to the community, as well as all of the outreach that all of our departments are doing out at all of our community events, as well as all of these strong partnerships that we have with our nonprofit organizations. So we have invested significantly in keeping our residents informed and connected and pushing information out to the public. That being said, there's still a very significant missing piece. And while we have many ways to communicate with residents, we have very limited tools in systematically understanding our community priorities. So today we gather feedback through public meetings, through public comment at public meetings, the social media comments that we get, the very limited emails and phone calls that we get in from our residents. Occasionally we do surveys for things like our parks plan when we need to update that, but that's limited to the parks plan and in our parks, and we only do that every 5 years. As well as the conversations that you guys have with residents out in the community, but those are very limited. And while they provide valuable insight to us, they don't give us the full picture of our entire community, their needs, their priorities, and their perceptions. And that leaves us with questions that we just can't easily answer. So what are our residents' top priorities, and how have those changed over time? What issues vary by community across our entire county? What services are our residents most aware of, and what are they not aware of? How do our conditions in Lenawee County compare to other communities, both similar in demographics, but also across the entire nation? what data supports the concerns that we hear most often, and also what funding opportunities align with our identified community needs. We've gotten very, very good at communicating with our community. The next step is really understanding the community. So everything we've talked about so far is really the challenge. Is the platform that we're proposing is really going to help us solve it. And it's more than just a communications tool. I'm calling it information infrastructure. So this would serve multiple departments across the entire county while creating a centralized approach to community data and engagement. It would include resident engagement and include tools such as a benchmark community survey, polling, other surveys, and other public input tools like a budget simulator, taxpayer receipts. It would include community intelligence, so access to demographic, economic, health, and community data sets, including the most comprehensive public sector database. We would also have the ability to upload all of our local community data. So things like our community health assessment that we do, the medical examiner's report that I just uploaded to our website yesterday has a lot of really important data in that. We could upload that to this as well. As well as some of it. So the Community Foundation just did a look at the entire community. We could upload that as well. It would give us tools for public transparency. As part of this, I would be able to build interactive dashboards and create public-facing data sharing for things on specific topics. So one of those would be health, but also we could really dive into all the housing data and build a dashboard just on housing for Lenawee County. We could do it on our workforce numbers and just looking at economic development and just specifically even going into our workforce and building those public facing data, and then everybody could have access to that. Would also include support for research and planning. So it would give us the ability to really get into that data with doing some analysis, using some closed system AI tools to really dig into that data, to identify trends and really research into what are our biggest needs, and also are there grant opportunities for us to address those needs. And then we'd be able to share that information not only with every department within the county, but also with all of our municipal partners and all of the nonprofits within the community, because then they would be able to go after some of those funding opportunities. So the company that we are proposing is named Polco. They're based in the United States, and they were founded by former Air Force officers who recognized a critical gap in how local governments and organizations gather, analyze, and utilize data to inform policy decisions. They, after they left the Air Force, went on to work for digital companies. They're experts in artificial intelligence, economics, and data science. And this tool is really built for local government. It would be a comprehensive intelligence and engagement solution, bringing together resident feedback, community data, public dashboards, research tools, and resources in one single environment. So what we're recommending is participation in an integrated solution pilot program that would provide full access to the platform's community intelligence and engagement tools. Included in this would be that benchmark community survey that I talked about. It's called the National Community Survey. It would also give us access to a national employee survey that we would be able to utilize for our employees here at Lenawee County. Those resident engagement tools that I talked about, so that taxpayer receipts and a budget simulator. If we're looking at doing other projects, we can do a prioritization thing where residents can get in and say, nope, this thing is more important to me. We'd be able to build those public dashboards on a variety of different topics. We would have the access to the AI assisted research and analysis. So for example, once we get into the data on our housing within Lenawee County, we can ask, what are the biggest needs Lenawee County has in housing? Give us the top 10. And then we could say, okay, what can county government do about it? What could this city do about it? What could that city do about it? And it will tell you, and then you could say, okay, what grant opportunities are there available to us to do these things? And then, once you get that, you can say, okay, can you help me write the grant for that? And yes, it can help you write the grant for that. It would give us the ability to then share that data with our municipal partners and our community partners, which will then help them as well do that work. We're looking at a 2-year pilot program. The cost is $20,000 per year for a total investment of $40,000. You may be asking, why now? Why are we not building this into the budget? So one of the things I've been working on for a long time is trying to fit that missing piece, because again, we've gotten very good at communicating information out. We really struggle at getting our residents engaged and pulling them in. So I've been looking at a way to do that benchmark community survey piece that has been missing for a while, as well as some of these other engagement tools. I'm looking at best practices, and I came across this solution. As I was working on that, the health department was simultaneously working on a solution to provide a data dashboard on social determinants of health, and to be able to share that across all the community partners that are working towards a better, healthier Lenawee County. The Lenawee County Health Department secured grant funding to support that community data dashboard and public access to information. As Ms. Hunt was working on that and looking at possible solutions to do that data dashboard, she sent that information over to me, and I said, I think we're working on the same project. So we did a couple demos with this other one that I was looking at, and determined that yes, it would meet the needs that the health department had, but also it creates a really exciting existing opportunity then to extend the access to this tool out to the entire county. Not only county government, but then we'd be able to share that data with the community at large. So let's talk about the funding piece a little bit. So the total pilot cost is $40,000, $20,000 a year. The first year, which we're looking at 2026, would be funded through that health department grant funding. Those grant funds have to be expended by September 30th, 2026. So that is why we are coming to you right now, is because we have to enter this contract now if we are going forward with the solution. Year 2 would be at the end of the pilot. So that would be in 2028. So that also would be the second half of it, that $20,000. $10,000 of that would be covered by the health department. The other $10,000 would be covered by general fund. So in summary, about 75% of this will be grant funded, and just the 25% of it would be general fund. There would be no general fund expenditure in 2026 or 2027. That would only come in 2028. There is a possibility that as we go forward, we could get additional grant funding to maybe cover the other piece, but we cannot guarantee that would be 2028 dollars. We can't even begin to apply for that yet. So as we get down the road, we will do that. We will also, as we get further on, evaluate whether this is a relationship we want to continue. If we find it valuable, something we want to continue go after grant funding for, or is this something that that's why we're doing a pilot, we don't find valuable and we decide, nope, this is not something we're gonna do going. So the request that you have before you is to authorize the county administrator to enter into a 2-year integrated solution pilot program agreement with Polco in the amount not to exceed $40,000, and authorize the necessary budget adjustments for 2026, which is $20,000 fully funded by the health department grant. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. We also have Ms. Hunt here from the health department, as well as Ms. Hewitt-Cruz is also here, and either one of them would be able to speak to you on the value they would find in this.
Before we take any questions, presuming there are some, we'll say that we're not going to take action on this month. We're going to use the 2 review procedure. Jim and Kim and I discussed this. And even though we're not expending any budget money this year, we're making a decision that can impact our budget in the outlying years. Secondly, it's not time sensitive. And Kim and I agreed that if we have a policy that we perpetually waive or look for loopholes, then we got to question the policy. In this case, there's no harm. I'll add one other comment. The previous platform that we used that sort of did some of these things was controversial in the previous commission. And I applaud Ms. Ambrose for finding a solution that uses rigorous sampling and is more reliable and it fixes some of our national security issues that were raised a few years ago. And I have to say, I personally fully endorse what you're doing here with this thing. Are there other comments? Okay, thank you for your patience with us. If there are no other comments, that will complete our first reading of this, and we will take this up next month. Thank you, Jen. Is there any other Ways and Means business? Any other additional items for the consent agenda? Any public comment on non-agenda items? Any commissioner comment? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying, I struggle to ask for comment on a motion to adjourn.